Hey guys, it's Mad Static, and Spider-Man 3 is one of the first PS2 games I ever played, making it by proxy one of the first video games I ever played. And when going back to it all these years later, the first thing I noticed is that this is absolutely not a PS2 game.
This Spider-Man person, how do you Americans say he sucks?
Your mother.
The next-gen version of this game was too advanced for the PS2 and Wii to handle, so instead of slightly downgrading that version, they chose to slightly upgrade the PSP version they were making. But then the PSP version is still the superior way to play. As a PSP game, this is a pretty cool novelty. A mini open-world Spider-Man game that can fit in your pocket and feels relatively close enough to the console version of Spider-Man 2, since the PSP version of Spider-Man 2 felt like a slightly upgraded version of the console's version of Spider-Man 1, since the PSP version of Spider-Man 1 was like a console version of Spider-Man 0 and didn't exist. On PSP it's pretty cool, but on PS2 this is kinda sad honestly compared to Spider-Man 2 or Ultimate Spider-Man. The city vaguely resembles New York with some street structures, but other than that it's mostly beige boxes with windows painted on. It's honestly hitting somewhere between the uncanny valley with just how many open spaces and blank textures there are.
Like, look, even as a kid I thought this was weird. Like, you've got all this open space, just nothing but Spider-Man and a bomb.
The graphics blown up like this look unnatural and unfinished, like a prototype version of Spider-Man 2, which, you know, isn't exactly the hottest game itself, so. It had half the story content from the next-gen version's cut, making the game like 4 hours in total, but thank God they kept the important parts of Spider-Man 3's legendary story, like Morbius. Now the combat is not good, it's basic to the point of extreme boredom, but I will defend it for a second. It does have a dodge button. You know, not every version of Spider-Man 3 has a dodge button. The sound effects are crunchy. They're something, I don't fucking know. You hear this fighting theme so damn much to the point that it's kind of like a key memory for me when playing it. What really kills this game for me though is the swinging, which prioritizes connecting your webs to the nearest building instead of going in the direction you're actually trying to go. So you can just be swinging straight down the street and then take a hard divot right out of nowhere. Compared to the other Spidey options on PS2, Spider-Man 3 is just a huge step backwards. Now compared to the Spidey options on Wii, this shit falls back down the staircase. This is still the PSP version, on a console that somehow managed to get Web of Shadows running on it, and I don't know how exactly because the Wii and PS2 were pretty similar power-wise, but the PS2 got the Amazing Allies edition, which was a side-scrolling beat-em-up. I got scammed so goddamn hard by this game as a kid, alright? I was expecting an open-world Spider-Man game, and what I got was this. That was fucked up. Plus, I'm pretty sure Web of Shadows is more advanced than even the next-gen version of Spider-Man 3. Or at least it feels like it, because this game on 360 and PS3 ain't that good either. There's a reason no one talks about it.
Another crime stopped. Thanks to Spider-Man. Ow, ow.
I remember before I got a PS3, I'd go to this weird little arcade/indoor playground in the mall, and they'd have like a PS3 with certain games you could play on it for like an hour, and it was specifically this game and Sonic 06 of all things that made me determined to get a PlayStation 3. That was just a recipe for disappointment right there. This one honestly felt too ambitious, if that makes sense. Like, they really did try to make meaningful improvements from Spider-Man 2, but all those fancy schmancy upgrades just didn't age well when compared to the prior silly stupid fun. The city feels pretty good to be in, but the graphics probably aged worse than anything. This is definitely one of those early HD ugly 3D type of games. Story-wise, there's a lot more missions and side content, but they don't have Morbius, so I don't have care.
Let me on the goddamn... There we go. Now, what are you trying to accomplish here? You're not going anywhere. Did I do it? Where's my... What the hell is going on?
I see what they were going for with the combat, and it almost works. There are a lot of combos and cool moves you can pull off. It can actually get really fun, but it is really sloppy. They've got these overexpressive animations that constantly spaz out and make it really hard to tell what attacks are actually doing before one of you just becomes a ragdoll and starts getting wailed on.
Just the goddamn guy.
To dodge people in this game, you've got to hold down a button to go into a slow-mo spider sense mode, and then press the specific button to dodge depending on which attack it is. Another cool idea that in execution with everything overcomplicates things and just ends up not functioning sometimes. A simple damn dodge button would have really worked wonders here. That and the ability to lock on. If you can get used to it, it's pretty good, but I prefer 2's messy dumbassery. Swinging also had a unique approach that just didn't age the best. It and the city prioritize building a sense of scale and height, which helps to make a kind of grandiose presentation, but I feel like it sacrifices speed and intuitiveness for this. It's fine, but again, Spider-Man 2 though. If there's one thing this game really remains known for though, it's the fucking QuickTime events.
I'm going to die.
This game is in love with QuickTime events. It uses that shit for everything. Literally everything. Dramatic finishes or cinematic moments I understand, but it will take parts of gameplay that you could actually be doing and playing out and having fun with, and makes them QuickTime events for no reason. They're all funny to fail, but it is probably the biggest showcase of the game's age. I appreciate what they tried to do here overall, genuinely, but it just ages worse and worse with time.
Baby burn. I've been fighting free. It's alive. Yeah, I want to stay and watch the show.
Now I will say I might be being a little bit too hard on it, because of the expectations I personally had for it. Like, I can still see it's a good Spidey game, and my opinion might even change if I play it a little bit more. Spider-Man 2 though. Other than that, there's actually 2 other versions of Spider-Man 3, a GBA game and a Nintendo DS one. I don't know shit about these games, I probably never will. For what it's worth, they look mediocre. At the end of the day, these 2 games are very different, but follow in the footsteps of the legendary movie. I personally like them. They've got some cool things about each of them. They all suck ass compared to Spider-Man 2.
All units in the vicinity, we have a 1030 in progress.